Joy Boykin is a longtime Johns Island resident who's concerned about the future of the island, and that's why he's running for Charleston County Council's District 8 seat. In this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups, I speak exclusively with him one-on-one. And be sure to download the free Quintin's Close-Ups app in your Apple or Google Play stores.
It's so good to meet you.
You too, Quintin.
I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Likewise. I just read your Facebook profile, and it reads this: former senior special agent at FTF, former deputy sheriff at Charleston County Sheriff's Office. Love Sheriff Al Cannon.
He's one of my faves.
He's the best. Former police officer at the University of South Carolina Police. Former radio dispatcher at the South Carolina Department of Natural Resources. Studied new agent training at the FTF National Academy. Studied criminal investigations at the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center. Studied basic law enforcement training at the South Carolina Criminal Justice Academy. Studied criminal justice at the University of South Carolina, Columbia. Went to Camden High School in Camden, South Carolina. Lives on Johns Island, married, and is from Camden, South Carolina. But why Charleston County Council?
Because I live in Charleston County. I've been here for 22 of the last 30 years. I've served here in both county and federal law enforcement. I have 5 other siblings that live in Charleston County.
Wow.
Although we're all originally from Camden, we've made our homes here for some time. My wife's family's been here for far back as I can remember. Her father was a businessman on Johns Island, had Blue Flame Propane, a long-standing company. They've had a family farm on Johns Island for generations, and that's where we live.
Wow.
I have a son also at St. John's High School.
What are the top issues in your mind about District 8?
3. Infrastructure, infrastructure, and infrastructure. I can't be more clear. The people in District 8 have spoken. They are tired of the gridlock. They're also tired of nothing being done. Most people on Johns Island have to travel, on and off the island to go to work and back. Right. And growth has so outpaced infrastructure over these last many years that it's now become not a matter of inconvenience, it's a matter of public safety.
You talk about public safety, you talk about infrastructure. Where are you in your mind with the completion, perhaps, of the expansion of 526?
I have studied this a long time. I have heard the arguments both pro and against.
Right. I
have been for it since 2012, at least, that I reached that determination, and I'm a member of Charlestonians for I-526. I hear all the arguments that are counter to it, but most of those folks don't offer reasonable accommodations in place of it. Right now, my primary objective is to get the road projects that are already approved and funded from the half-cent sales tax, and that includes widening Main Road to 4 lanes, from Bees Ferry at least as far as Maybank, if not all the way down to Betsy Carrison. The Limehouse Bridge is already wide enough for 4 lanes. We're only running 2 lanes of traffic. We're only using half the capacity of that road. The other thing, right in that same area, is the flyover overpass at Main and 17. That is one of the most deadliest and dangerous intersections in the state of South Carolina. People get in wrecks and get killed there, all the time. It needs to be fixed. And if you've ever been on 17 South where people are getting off work, you've seen how the traffic backs all the way to the experimental station. Right. That's ridiculous. And it's also impeding those folks who are just simply trying to travel south on 17 to go down to the lower part of the district. Right. So the money's there. I just heard your interview with Mr. Quayle, and he was talking about the money was coming in. Well, let's spend some of that money. Let's get some of these projects up and going. So I'd like to be the spark plug to get some of these things moving. The other thing, obviously, at the other end of Johns Island is the pitchfork. We've heard so much about that. Right. It's inexplicable how it's taken this long to build about a mile of road and just simply widen it, and also not getting these other lanes coming off of it built. The folks are tired of it. They've had enough. They're ready to get it done yesterday. I support Senator Sinn's efforts and all that she's done, and also most of the majority of council. And this is what the folks in District 8 want.
And you talk about it, District 8, that is, and obviously they just had the Charleston County Council meeting just the other day.
Yes.
When you look back at that meeting, what still plays in your mind?
There's so many different things that they discussed. But right now, the biggest issue is 526.
Okay.
There's obviously, Chairman Rawl has sent another request to the CIB. Right. We're waiting to hear what's going on with that. My consensus in speaking to folks that are on council now is that they're not talking to us. We used to have a dialogue, now we're not even getting a response. That's disconcerting.
Is Sandy Sin, I should say Senator Sandy Sin, she's gonna give me for that. But is that you guys' only hope right now?
No, it's not the only hope. There are many ways we can do this. I've spoken to Councilman Brantley Moody and some of the others, and there are a lot of ideas to pay for this road. I, for one matter, believe that one of the ways to do it, if we can't get the money from the state, if that turns out to be a dead end, I'm for either the privatization of that last section and or a toll. And a lot of people get mad when they hear the toll word.
Okay.
But if absent any other funding formulas to get this road built, we need to look outside. And I hadn't heard anybody else come up with any other ideas. But what a lot of people don't realize, the old Grace Bridge, that was the original bridge going from Charleston over to Mount Pleasant, it was built in the 20s. Did you know it had a toll?
It was.
And it was there for 15 years. And then they got through and it moved on. I don't like a toll, but if we don't have any other way to fund this road, that may be an alternative. I also have heard from council members that some of them believe, and I haven't seen all the figures, that there's enough money in these combined half-cent sales tax referendums. The one I think there's a residual 60 million or so left in the first one, and they believe the revenue generated from the second one would be more than enough to pay for the completion of 526 and these other road projects. The only thing I've made clear in my conversations with folks on council is that my position would be absolutely to finish the road, finish 526, but not at the expense of those other necessary road projects. I wouldn't want those held up by the completion of 526. I want that flyover done, I want Main Road wide, and I want Pitchfork completed. Those can be done much sooner. We don't have to deal with the state on those.
Why the politics? This has been going on as long as, I was born in 1984. This came up right in the early 90s. Why the politics?
Well, it's funny you mention this. We didn't have all this fight when they wanted to put 526 over the Cooper and Ashland, the Cooper River and the Wanda River, did we? Didn't have all this when they wanted to build the Isle of Palms connector. Why? Well, exactly. Why now? I think the issue is the road was conceived back in the 60s, and it was conceived to be built all the way around. If we had gone ahead and funded this project and completed it way back then, nobody would be complaining how much it cost. And so now they're saying $700 million. Well, if we build it now, instead of waiting another 10 or 15 years when it's going to be absolutely, without question necessary, $700 million is like a bargain then. Because it's only going up. It's never going to be any less expensive than it is now.
And why privatization in your mind?
Privatization is an option that, if we had somebody that wanted to come in and invest in that road, they can collect the tolls off it and use it as a business venture. If we can't get public money to finish it, let's look at other options. I'm not saying that's the only option, but that and or a county-built road that's being repaid through a toll would also be an option. So, again, one other thing I would add in there real quickly, and I'll try to wrap this up quick,
go for it.
is people that run for council should bring new ideas. That's a firm believer. If the same old thing's not working, we need something else to try. One of the things I've been investigating and looking into is a concept of an ordinance that's called Adequate Public Facilities Ordinance, or APFO. It is an ordinance that would be incorporated into a county or a city's comprehensive land use plan. And basically what it means is that when you have new planned developments, the planning folks look at what impact that has on public resources. And that could be water and sewer, traffic and roads, emergency services, schools. All those things are going to be impacted by allowing all these new folks and residences into our community. If you tie the approval of those with those developers paying a fair share to these improvements that we're going to need, basically put into like a trust fund for the county, then that money's there to build intersections, to add classrooms, to add teachers, firemen, medics, that we tie development with infrastructure. And then there's one other element that goes with that. It's called concurrency. Concurrency means simply that in that ordinance you have it written such that if a developer gets approved to do like for example, 1,000 home development, which is going in down by Kiowa, that money is set aside by them and it's bonded. So even if they fail as an institution, the bonding company will step in and pay those funds. And that you have a requirement that those infrastructure improvements must be completed at time of build out of that development. So we're not 5 and 10 years lagging behind trying to build something that we needed yesterday. So just something to think about.
And obviously, let me get back to District 8 because there's so much talk about affordable housing, affordable housing, affordable housing.
Sure.
Is that dead or alive in your mind?
It's alive. In fact, we have low-income housing going up right now by the Goodwill on right at the intersection of Main and Maybank,
Right.
and it's, it's going up literally as we speak. As far as affordable housing, that gets back to the same thing of low-income housing, in the sense that I don't know there's such a thing as low-income housing on a barrier island that's waterfront, and obviously everybody in the world wants to live there. So the market's going to drive those prices. I think it's going to be a tough sell to get that done, because private landowners aren't going to sell their property for less than what it's worth.
And I know this is a little off topic, but
Sure.
everybody I've talked to along coastal South Carolina, Democrat or Republican
Yes.
or Independent, basically says, hey, no to offshore drilling. Talk to me about your side of this issue.
I am a longtime conservationist. Our family farm that we live on, we're actually in the process of trying to put a conservation easement on it. I care very deeply about wildlife and our natural resources. I obviously worked for DNR for a portion of time. My brother was a game warden.
Right.
I spend most of my free time recreationally out on the water and in the woods. I'm absolutely, unequivocally against offshore drilling in South Carolina. I don't think we need it. I think the risk-reward aspect of it is unsettling. Much of our economy in South Carolina is tourism-driven.
Right.
Can you imagine the ecological and damage to our economy if we had one offshore oil spill? It would be devastating.
And let me get back to the voters. If you were to talk with them one-on-one, what would be your first question to them about District 8?
What do you need? And in fact, funny you should mention that. I just got back from a trip yesterday to Edisto Island.
Right.
The folks on Edisto feel like they're absolutely forgotten and abandoned. I want to tell you a story that's heartwarming.
Okay.
There is a group of people down there that on a little road called Indigo Hill Road that runs right off of Highway 174. They came to the Charleston County and asked for funds to try to build a ballpark, a little baseball field for the kids to play t-ball and Little League baseball. And they were told no, that there's no money available from the current representative. They've received zero assistance in that matter. I went in and watched what the community could do. They had found a private landowner to let them use, with a handshake agreement, a part of his property, and they have installed a ball field. And it was heartwarming to see those young children out there playing with their moms and dads watching. And so how is it? Last I checked, Edisto Island is still part of Charleston County, yet it gets no love. And it's a shame, and it shouldn't be that way. And if I get elected to county council, I'm going to see to fixing that. The county already owns almost a 400-acre piece of property they bought for a park, and they've done nothing with it. And the good folks at Edisto are having to, scrape and scrounge just to put a little ball field in for kids to play on. So that's one of the first things I'm going to work on for those folks at Edisto, is to see if we can get them some facilities on property the county already owns.
And let me reset and talk about you again.
Yes,
Obviously,
sir.
we know that you are very heavily involved with law enforcement.
Yes,
you
sir.
have you're basically an entrepreneur.
Thank you.
You're welcome. But when you put all of that aside,
Yes, sir.
who is Joe Boykin?
Joe Boykin is a born and bred South Carolinian. Our family's been in South Carolina since 1755. We had ancestors that fought in the Revolutionary War for the Patriots. We actually brought you the Boykin Spaniel dog. I apologize to all those viewers whose Boykin Spaniels chewed up your favorite pair of shoes or your furniture or whatever else. But I think it's a neat thing. We've been bound and tied to this state, and I've spent most of my career in service of my state and my country. And, I guess I care. That's the biggest thing about me. I got into law enforcement. I had a personal tragedy when I was a very young child. My mother was killed in an act of domestic violence. I think her sacrifice of her life saved myself and my brother. And I think she was absolutely the inspiration of me wanting to go into public service. And to be a port in a storm for folks, and to stand up for folks that couldn't defend themselves. So I'm very proud of that service, and it was very rewarding for me. And I actually felt like I was doing something that mattered. So I would say that kind of sums up who I am.
What is the future of District 8 when you look into your crystal ball?
Well, I think there's a lot of possibilities. There's the development zones that have come out recently through the new tax bill, and one of which was identified as the Parker's Ferry area of District 8. Folks on Edisto don't have a lot of opportunities for employment, or Adams Run or Parker's Ferry. They're going to have to come into town for the most part. I would love to see that go forward and perhaps land you know, some type of industrial or technical facility down there that could employ a lot of people and teach them job skills. Okay. I think, you know, that's something that the county absolutely has to get behind. That area needs growth in a positive way. When I say growth, I don't mean housing subdivisions. I mean growth in job opportunities and educational opportunities. So that's something that's on my mind right there. The rest of District 8, my future right now is we got to build some roads. We got to widen some roads. We've got to let our infrastructure that's lagged behind probably some 10 years now get caught up with the folks that are here now. So that, I want to be able to give our constituents in District 8 some relief. They deserve it.
Joe Boykin, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate this.
Thank you, Quintin. My pleasure.
Likewise.